Chapter 12, Enhancements, User Exits and Performance. 59. User exit or BADI you actually used and why. Real example. The concept. Senior consultants must distinguish between standard configuration and the need for ABAP logic. User exits, classic, and BADIs, business add-ins, object-oriented, are used when business requirements deviate from the standard SAP process flow. The real-world example. I utilize the user exit MV45AFZZ, specifically the form USEREXITSAVEDOCUMENTPREPARE, to implement a mandatory check during sales order creation, VA01. The business requirement. The client required that for a specific sales organization and distribution channel, a sales order could not be saved if the customer PO number field was empty. Furthermore, if the material group was electronics, the system had to validate that a specific custom partner function, Z1 technical contact, was populated in the partner determination tab. Why standard config failed? Standard incompletion procedures could handle the PO number check, but they are often soft checks or applied globally to the item category. The requirement here was conditional logic based on a combination of sales area and material group, which standard incompletion logs cannot handle dynamically without complex access sequences that might affect performance. Technical implementation details. Object include program MV45AFZZ. Form USEREXITSAVEDOCUMENTPREPARE. Logic. I wrote ABAP code to loop through internal table XVBAP item data to check the material group. If the condition was met, I checked internal table XVBPA partner data for the presence of partner function Z1. Outcome. If Z1 was missing, I appended an error message to the log and set the save flag to abort. Interview tip. When answering this, mention that you prefer BADIs, like BADI-SDSALES, BASIC, over classic user exits because BADIs are upgrade stable and allow multiple implementations. However, admit that MV45AFZZ is still the industry standard for older systems or specific deep modifications. 60. Performance issues in sales order or billing, how you analyzed. The concept. Performance issues usually manifest as timeouts, runtime errors, or extreme slowness when saving orders or running the billing do list, VF04. An 8-year consultant looks at the database layer, not just the functional layer. Analysis strategy. 1. Replication. First, I attempt to reproduce the slowness in the quality, QAS, system using similar data volume. 2. STO5, SQL trace. I switch on the SQL trace to see which database tables are being hit. The most common culprit is a sequential read on a large table like VBAP or LIPS without using the primary key. 3. SE30 or SAT, runtime analysis. I use this to separate ABAP processing time from database time. If ABAP time is high, it indicates inefficient looping logic. Example, nested loops. Real scenario. We faced a timeout in the billing do list, VF04. Root cause, a custom requirement routine, VOFM, assigned to the billing type, was selecting data from the sales order history table, VBFA, using a non-indexed field. The code was doing a select inside a loop. The fix. I requested the ABAP team to modify the code to use the for all entries command to minimize database hits and ensured they selected only the necessary fields, not. Interview tip. Mention table indexing. If a custom report is slow, check if the where clause uses the table's primary index. If not, creating a secondary index with basis approval is a senior level solution. 61. When to use customization versus user exit versus BADI senior consultant judgment. The concept. This question tests your architectural decision-making. The hierarchy of decision. 1. Standard configuration, always the first choice. It is supported by SAP, requires no coding, and works through upgrades, example, using incompletion procedures instead of coding a check. 2. Personalization or variance, using screen variants SHD0 to hide fields or make them mandatory without code. 3. User exits, modifications, used only when standard hooks MV45AFZZ are the only way to intervene in the save process or pricing logic. These are essentially modifications to SAP standard includes. 4. BADIs, enhancements, the preferred method for code. They are hooks provided by SAP that do not modify the core source code. They use BAP objects. 5. Implicit enhancements, the last resort. Injecting code into standard SAP includes where no explicit exit or BADA exists. Senior judgment example. If a client asks to change the field label of material to SKU on the sales order screen, Junior will ask the ABA per to change the screen element. Senior, I will use text enhancements, CMOD, or screen personas to change the label without touching the backend code. 62. Emergency production fix without transport, what is acceptable and what is not. The concept. Direct changes in a production environment are strictly prohibited in 99% of cases due to audit compliance and system integrity. However, firefighting situations exist. What is acceptable? Master data updates, customer masters, condition records, and output records are meant to be maintained in production. Number range maintenance. If a number range is exhausted, example, billing documents, you must extend it immediately in production SNRO to stop business stoppage. Opening the client, rare. In extreme cases, example, a currency setting blocking all transactions globally. The client might be open for a few minutes by basis for a specific config tweak, but this generates a huge audit trail. What is not acceptable? Code changes. Never write ABAP in production. It can cause syntax errors that crash the whole system. Cross-client config, changing defined item categories or pricing schemas directly. The process. If a critical bug is found, 1. Fix in development, 2. Transport to quality, 3. Test, 4. Emergency transport to production using a firefighter ID or emergency change request process. Interview tip. Use terms like SOX compliance, audit trail, and firefighter ID, GRC. This shows you understand the corporate governance side of SAP 63. Handling data inconsistency between VBAK or VBAP or VBFA, safe correction approach. The concept. Sometimes, a sales order header, VBAK, status says open, but the items, VBAP, are completed, or the document flow, VBFA, is missing a link. This causes billing failures. The solution. Do not use SQL Update. Never manually update standard tables using debug mode or SQL scripts. This corrupts data integrity. Report, RVDELSTA. This is a standard report to redetermine the status of sales documents. It recalculates the status of header and items based on the document flow. Report, SDVBUK00. This report regenerates the status tables VBUK or VBUP in ECC or the status columns in IER4 HANA. Report RVV05IVB. This checks and repairs the sales index tables, VBOX, etc. Interview tip. Mention that before running these correction reports, you always run them in test mode first to see what will be changed. If the issue is severe, you raise an OSS message, SAP note, to get a specific correction program from SAP support. 64. Why background jobs affect SD processing, billing, outputs, credit release. The concept. Background jobs, batch processing, automate high-volume tasks like billing creation, SDBILLDL, or post-goods issue, WSMONITOROUTBDELGDSI. How they affect SD. 1. Locking issues. If a user is editing sales order 1001 in change mode, VA02, and the background billing job tries to process order 1001, the job will fail for that document because the record is locked. 2. Resource contention. If too many jobs run simultaneously, example, billing and MRP run at the same time, the system performance degrades, causing timeouts. 3. Data consistency. Background jobs usually process data in blocks. If a job fails halfway, you might have a partial billing run where half the deliveries are billed and half are not, requiring manual restart. Analysis. I monitor jobs in SM37. If a job fails, I check the job log to see the error message. Common errors include document blocked by user X or number range buffer overflow. Chapter 13, IER4, HANA migration and modern SD changes. 65. Rebate processing, classic, and why it's obsolete in IER4. The change. In ECC, rebates relied on the massive index table VBOX. Every time a billing document was created, the system updated VBOX to track potential rebate accruals. This table grew exponentially, causing huge database sizes and performance lag. IER4 HANA solution. Classic rebate processing.